This is guaranteed to happen in the Championship in game week 6, at least in my opinion. We've got my Championship score predictions going ahead into the next game week. If you're a Championship fan, then do hit subscribe on this channel. We do daily Championship content talking about all of your teams. So if you are a fan of a team in the Championship, this is the place to be. It does just take 1 second. Please do hit that subscribe button. And as well as that, drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. And let's jump straight into things. So thank God we do have Friday night football in the Championship. It's always a good week when you've got a Friday night game to kick off the weekend. And it is an absolute cracker to start off the weekend. We've got Middlesbrough versus West Brom. Of course, Middlesbrough unbeaten so far in the Championship. West Brom 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. They picked up their first loss of the season at the weekend against Derby County, which, I mean, they dominated the game, and you can just put it down to literally that West Brom are cursed. That was the reason why they lost the game. There's no other explanation to it than Derby just always get one over on West Brom no matter what happens. And as I say, it wasn't even a bad performance from West Brom. So they've had a really positive start to the season, currently sat in 5th. Up against Middlesbrough, who are one of the only unbeaten teams in the Championship. Just 3 teams that are unbeaten, Middlesbrough being one of them. And Middlesbrough currently being sat top of the table. They very nearly lost their unbeaten record in the game against Preston, with obviously Preston going 2-1 up, but Middlesbrough getting a late equaliser in that game. We just have a look at head-to-head. Recently, Middlesbrough have been the team that have been getting the results in the last 3. There, 3 wins in a row for Middlesbrough without a goal conceded. And with it being at the Riverside Stadium, I do think Middlesbrough definitely will fancy their chances again in this game. And the way they've started the season, of course, defensively they've been decent enough for the most part, and as well as that going forward, they've been decent as well. They've scored a few goals, and as well as that, of course, 2-2 draw in the last game against Preston. 9 goals scored so far this season, just the 3 conceded, so they've been very good in both boxes. Matt Targett's actually come in and made a really good impact into that Middlesbrough side, by the way. Of course, there's kind of a bit of controversy with what happened with Morgan Whittaker. I think the Middlesbrough fans cheered him when he got substituted. Rob Edwards wasn't happy with that. Fair play to Rob Edwards for speaking out. You know, he's not afraid to kind of say something that could potentially, you know, obviously if it goes another way and he says things wrong and he words it wrong, Middlesbrough fans might not be a fan of that, but I think he worded it really well and obviously protecting his players and showing that they want to all have that kind of positive momentum and all be working together, which, as I say, I think that's a really good thing from Rob Edwards, and he's really started to build something so far at Middlesbrough, which I'm very surprised about. And I personally think they'll be able to keep this run of form going. I do think they'll be able to get themselves another result, and I actually am going to back Middlesbrough to get themselves a result in this game. So we are going to go for a low scorer. We're going to go for a 1-0 win to Middlesbrough, because West Brom haven't exactly been free-flowing in terms of the goals that they've scored. So we are going to go for a 1-0 to Middlesbrough in that game. Now we're on to the early kickoffs, where we have the first game being Birmingham City versus Swansea City. And this is a game where it's going to be, I think there's a bit of pressure to be felt in this game for Birmingham City. Of course, with the performances of late for Birmingham, no goals in the last 3 games, no goals in their last 2 league games, and they've not really been all too creative in terms of, as I say, their chance creation, and when they do get the chances, taking them chances. It's been very frustrating of late for Birmingham. When you look at that game against Stoke, I think Stoke were, I think Stoke personally just edged the game. It was a very close one, but Birmingham again had a lot of the ball, but didn't really create any big chances, which has been the main problem. And as I say, a lot of teams would like to sit back, let Birmingham have the ball, and play on the counter attack, which I think obviously for Swansea in this game, this might suit Swansea quite well. Who started the season very, very decent so far with 8 points in their opening 5 matches. So you have to say it's been a good start to the season for Swansea. Vipotnik's been absolutely incredible going forward. He scored 3 goals this season, a real good striker of the ball, and someone that could really come into his own this season. They've got a good midfielder there in Franco, which I really like. Burgess has been a good signing at the back as well. With Kabanga, they've got a nice partnership. It's definitely not going to be an easy game for Birmingham. Swansea do have a game in the week as well in the Cup against Nottingham Forest, which is a big benefit to Birmingham, of course, with Swansea having that extra game. Birmingham, of course, are now knocked out of the Cup. But I do think Birmingham at St Andrews will be able to bounce back and get themselves a result in this game. And I don't think, again, there's going to be all too many goals in it, in my opinion. But I am going to go for another 1-0. I mean, crazy. I'm going to go for another 1-0 to Birmingham City in this game. I'm going to back Birmingham to turn things around. It's been very frustrating in recent weeks, and chance creation, as I say, has been the main problem. But defensively, they've still been relatively decent. So I do expect it to be a close game. I am going to go for a Birmingham City win in that one, though. And now we've got another early kickoff, which is another fantastic game in Leicester City versus Coventry. And 2 teams that have started the season pretty well overall, you have to say. Coventry City currently sat in 6th in the table, unbeaten so far. Leicester currently sat in 4th, getting a draw against Oxford last time out. Coventry City getting that late goal against Norwich City to earn themselves a point as well. But Coventry going forward, you look at their XG in the game against Norwich, their XG across the whole season, the chance they've created, it's been ridiculous. 15 goals scored in 5 matches. I mean, averaging 3 goals per game right there. Defensively, again, it hasn't really been good enough from a Coventry perspective. They were pretty solid in that game against Norwich, to be honest. I mean, of course, they scored a goal. Norwich scored a goal on the kind of counter-attack and against the run of play, but for the vast majority of the game, Coventry were absolutely dominating that, and Norwich were quite happy to kind of sit in and let Coventry play with the ball. And as I say, a draw is a disappointing result, but for them to bounce back and actually manage to get a goal right at the 96th minute, it's it's better than a loss at the end of the day. 7 big chances. So another day, they beat Coventry beat QPR 7-1, and they created, in terms of quality of chances, nowhere near the same amount of quality of what they created in this game against Norwich, which finished 1-1, but that's just the way the game works. At the end of the day, if you don't take your chance, which Coventry didn't, then you can't be expecting to get as many 3 points as what you'd like. But as I say, I think Coventry performance-wise have been really, really impressive. Up against the Leicester side, which have been relatively, I'd say they've been pretty average so far in terms of their performance. I've been disappointed. I expected more from Leicester. Even the games they've won, they've not blown me away, which I thought they might do. 2-2 draw against Oxford isn't bad, given the fact they had 10 men for the vast majority of the game. So I think that it was an okay result in the end. It's been just an okay start. I know they're sat on a decent points total, but we expect that from a team like Leicester with the quality that they've got. And I do expect there to be at least a few goals in this game. I think Fatawu is surely going to hurt that Coventry City defence at some point throughout the match. Someone from Leicester's got that quality to at least get Leicester a goal in that game. And I think Coventry, we've seen the firepower they've got so far with Hadji Wright and all of their options going forward, the wide players, the players in behind with Rodoni. There's so much quality in that Coventry City side. I am going to go for a bit more of a high score in this one. We are going to go for a 2-2, a third draw in a row we're going to go for Coventry City. Right, on to the next one now, where we have got my team at QPR playing against Stoke City, which, Stoke have been really impressive, haven't they, so far this season? They've been good going forward. The wingers have been incredible. Millie Manhoef, I think, was fantastic again in the last match as well. Sorba Thomas has put up really good numbers. That whole attack for Stoke has been really, really impressive. As well as that defensively, they've been very, very solid as well. Just the 3 goals conceded. And the more games that get played, the more you believe that Stoke could actually be up there come the end of the season. Obviously, a lot of people have seen, and everybody's seen what Stoke have been like over the last few years, like literally at bottom half every single season, constant disappointment, looking like they could be alright on paper and just never quite performing. It looks to be a little bit different this season with Stoke, and they've got a quality manager in Mark Robbins, and they're up against a QPR team and my team, which have really turned a corner since the game against Coventry, where we lost 7-1, back-to-back 3-1 games. We've been really good going forward so far this season. We've scored 9 goals, which is actually the joint third amount of goals so far this season. Stoke scoring 9 as well. We've kept no clean sheets so far this season, which has been very disappointing. So I do think Stoke will be able to get themselves at least a goal against us. But as I said, I think this could be a really entertaining match. I think we're quite an entertaining team right now. The way that we're playing, the way that we're set up, we're kind of this formation with Kone is kind of like a second striker behind Burrell, who's a very, very fast player. With Harvey Vale's got creativity and Sato on the sides. We've got creativity in that side, but defensively has been a big problem so far this season in terms of how many goals we're conceding, how many chances we're also conceding as well. It is a little bit concerning, so I do think Stoke will definitely be able to get us, because I think we'll try and play and try and get ourselves a result in that game and play positively. So I think Stoke could definitely have the opportunities on the counter-attacks when they do have them opportunities to hurt us, definitely. So I think it could be a really entertaining game, this one. I am going to go for goals. I am actually going to go for a 3-2 Stoke. Well, I actually think Stoke have been so impressive so far this season. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen. But if I'm being realistic, I think this could be a really entertaining game. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 Stoke. And as I say, two teams that in the last, QPR in the last 2 games have been really impressive, and Stoke have been impressive all season long. Now we're on to the 3 p.m. kickoffs, where first up we have got Blackburn versus Ipswich. And I really do think after this international break, I think Ipswich have turned a corner. They've made a couple of late signings. And just look at their options on the bench in that game they had against Sheffield United, the players that came on, the likes of Jack Clark. They also had their record sign Eggerly. Sorry if I said that wrong, but they've got a lot of options in there who come on off the bench now, and it's a very strong starting 11 as it is. And this squad is absolutely stacked, and it's for me now now they've got that win against Sheffield United. I think they just needed that win to get them going, and I think we could really see the best out of Ipswich. They're favourites to win the league for a reason. Philogene was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the strikes, the goals that he scored were just ridiculous. If he can keep that going, we've just not seen enough of Philogene, not seen enough quality from him over the last 12 months or so. Obviously, he's been playing in the Premier League, and it's obviously different now that he's dropped down to the Championship. But this was the first game where we really saw the best of Philogene in an Ipswich shirt, in my opinion, which is great to see from an Ipswich perspective. George Hurst getting himself a goal as well. I mean, questionable goalkeeping, you have to say, from Michael Cooper. I think Kayuste coming in is a huge signing. Matasi was starting to adjust to Championship football, I think, as well, after kind of a tough start in the first few games. There's so much quality in that side. Up against the Blackburn side, which, I mean, they got themselves a 1-0 win in the last match against Watford, which was very much needed. It's been very hit or miss with Blackburn, you know. They've obviously put in an excellent performance against Hull City. A couple of games there where they haven't really performed the best in those games that they've lost. Been a bit of a mixed bag, and that's what you're going to get with Blackburn, with kind of the amount of turnover of players they've got in terms of players that have come into the side and players that have also left the side as well. That's probably to be expected. Savannah Shmawi, I mean, he's not doing an absolutely shocking job, I don't think, so far, because as I say, there's a lot of turnovers, a lot of pressure, I think, with that Blackburn job. So far, it actually hasn't been as bad a start as maybe people make out. I predicted Blackburn to be down there at the end of the season. I mean, 2 wins so far out of the first 3 losses. It's not been absolutely terrible from Blackburn so far, but I just think playing against this Ipswich side, they've got so much quality. Ipswich should be winning this game, so I am going to go for a 3-1 result to Ipswich. I think that Ipswich will get a few goals just with the quality they've got going forward. I think they'll be very high in confidence after that last game that they just played against Sheffield United. Right, now we're on to Derby County versus Preston. Derby have actually had a really difficult start. When you look at the fixtures, they've played a lot of their teams that they've played are actually, currently in the top 6. You've got Coventry there in the top 6. Bristol City the same. And then you've got Ipswich, who are, title favourites, and West Brom are also in the top 6 as well. So it actually has been a difficult start in terms of fixtures for Derby County. Coming out of it, 5 points in the first 5 games isn't too bad. They've scored quite a few goals. I don't think they've looked the best in terms of their performances. Obviously, they've had games where they've conceded a few goals, 11 goals conceded this season. But as I say, it has been a difficult start. Those teams have maybe turned a corner in the last couple of games against Ipswich. I know Ipswich created quite a bit against them, but Derby were impressive in that game and gave a good account of themselves, and on another day could have walked away with a win. And against West Brom, I mean, again, it wasn't the best performance. They kind of got dominated in the vast majority of the match, but they managed to get through and get a result, and that's just kind of what John Eustace does. And as I say, now you look at the Championship now, it's actually unbeaten in 3 matches now with a draw against Bristol City, which again, the performance wasn't the best, but you do think Derby will be able to kind of get better as the season goes on, as these new players adjust as well to playing for John Eustace. And I mean, I say adjust, a lot of them already played for him because they've signed him from Blackburn, but just get used to playing at Derby County up against the Preston team, which have actually been really, really impressive so far this season. Another decent performance, you have to say, against Middlesbrough. Gave a good account of themselves again, taking points off top of the league. Middlesbrough the first team to do that, and getting results against Ipswich and Leicester. They've been very impressive, and it's against the teams where, where maybe they're expected a bit more to get a result, where they haven't got it. Against Portsmouth, failed to get a result, and on the first game of the season against QPR, they drew that game as well, which you'd probably say those were on paper, the easier fixtures in the start of the season, but they haven't quite got the results in them games. So I do think in this game, Derby County will be able to get themselves a positive result. I do think, a positive has to be a win, to be honest, but I do think this game will be a draw. We've not gone for a draw yet, but we are going to go for a 1-1 in this game. I feel like a draw would be a fair reflection between those two sides. As I say, Derby is still very early days. Preston have impressed so far this season, so we are going to go for a point apiece in that game. And going on to the next one now is a team that's really struggled so far this season in Southampton, up against Hull City, which again another team that we expect to be down there come the end of the season. They're currently down there right now in 20th place, just a 1 win in the opening 5 matches. There are some interesting games Hull have, to be fair, in their opening games. Southampton, a lot of question marks are I'm seeing a lot of attention being turned towards Will Still at the moment with the way that he started the season. People maybe think he's maybe not, or what he's cracked up to be, because he's came in obviously with a big reputation over in France as, a really progressive coach and a very good coach. We are very tactically a very good coach, which, the games of Southampton so far, we just quite simply haven't seen it. In the game against Portsmouth, 0-0 draw. There really wasn't much in the game. I think a draw was very much a fair reflection, but of course, a derby day, anything can happen, that kind of stuff. But you expect a team of Southampton's quality to really be putting aside a team like Portsmouth respectfully. Of course, as I say, it's a derby, but performance-wise, I don't think was the best again. And performance-wise throughout the whole season for Southampton really just hasn't been there in the slightest. I couldn't really, they beat Norwich 3-0 in the EFL Cup. I'm not really too sure. I've not really seen that game in terms of that. But in the Championship, I'm yet to really see a real good performance against Wrexham. They scored 2 late goals to get the win in that. Ipswich, they were decent for the first half. We've not really seen the best at all from Southampton. They really need to get a move on and start and get themselves some points in the book, because they're already falling very much behind them. 6 points after the first 5 matches hasn't really been good enough. Up against Hull City, who, as I say, getting a 2-2 draw against Swansea with a late equaliser from John Egan. Ollie McBurney started the season really well for Hull City. I actually think Hull City can be positive going into this game, and I do think they'll be able to get themselves a result in this game. Going forward, as I say, they've got McBurney, who started the season pretty well. They've got Gelhardt as well, who's got some quality as well. I do think Hull will be able to get themselves a result. I think they've got a goal in them with it being at home as well. I'm going to go for another 1-1. I think Southampton will continue to struggle to the start of the season, which, as I say, I predicted Southampton to be up there, and a lot of people did. And they just have very much disappointed so far this season. Right, on to the next game now. We've got Norwich City versus Wrexham, where, Norwich have got a few injuries, haven't they? Jesus Christ. Chris Gordon, of course, getting his first goal in the last match against Coventry, which is a big moment for him. But now it looks like he's out until the end of October. So, unlucky, mate. How's your luck? You're scoring your first goal, and then now you're out injured till over a month, which is not ideal when you've just signed for a new club. And Norwich playing against Wrexham, who, Phil Parkinson's under serious pressure. And a game against Norwich, it's not an awful game to play, but, you wouldn't really want to be going away to Carrow Road. I think Norwich will be decent in this game, to be honest. And up against his Wrexham side, I've seen it faced over 100 shots so far this season. Defensively, they've been a shambles. Connor Cody in that game against QPR was one of the worst centre-back performances I've seen in a long time. It was a leave the football before the football leaves you kind of performance, because I think he was genuinely at fault for all 3 of the goals, or at least could have done better for all 3 of the goals, 100%, especially on that last goal for Burrell that he scored against Wrexham. And it's been so disappointing in terms of results. And as I say, £30 million spent, he's always going to have that kind of pressure on him, Phil Parkinson. And then when you couple that up with the record that he's got at Championship level with his previous jobs, it's easy just to turn them attention to him and say, he's not got out for Championship level, which, you can't argue with it, with the record he's got there, and he's now spent this kind of money. It's obviously difficult bringing in a lot of players and then getting instant performances out of them, but it's the way that they play, very one-dimensional, hit the ball up to Kiefer Moore. I said in my TikTok, if this guy gets injured, what are they going to do? Because he's that physical striker, and he has been great so far. I think Kiefer Moore has been unbelievable for Wrexham so far since signing. And I worry about the rest of that team, to be honest, because Heath Moore is obviously, he is 30-odd years old. And Norwich City, a good point against Coventry. They'll be fuming they didn't get the result in the end, because I think it was Harry Darlin who gave the ball away right at the end for the Hadji Rag goal. It was just a bit of a disaster. Just put your foot through it at 96 minutes. You're so close to getting the result. Frustrating, of course, you have to send the bounds, but Coventry definitely deserved an equaliser with the amount of chances they created. But it'll be frustrating they didn't pick up the 3 points in that game. Of course, they've always got goals in them with Josh Sargent. You'll feel like Josh Sargent up against Connor Cody, up against that Wrexham defence. He'll really fancy his chances with the way that he started the season. And I think Norwich will fancy their chances in this game. And honestly, I think with it being at Carrow Road, I think Norwich will be able to get themselves the result. Of course, we know the way that Wrexham are going to set up, the way they're going to play. We are going to go for a 2-1. I think Wrexham will get themselves a goal, but I'm going to go 2-1 to Norwich City in that game. Now on to the next game where we have got... Oh, we're going all the way back there. Now going on to the next game where we do have Portsmouth versus Sheffield Wednesday, where, it's so difficult for Sheffield Wednesday. They're playing... At the time of recording, they're still literally playing in the Carabao Cup right now as I speak. Up against Portsmouth, where Portsmouth have actually made a really good start to the season, to be honest. I've been very impressed with them. I think they're putting a good performance again against Southampton to go away and, limit Southampton the way that they did. Has been impressive. Goals going forward haven't really come too freely. Just the 3 goals conceded though, so it's been pretty solid overall for Portsmouth. Sat in 9th in the table, just the 1 loss so far this season. Portsmouth will be hoping this game that they can fancy their chances and get themselves some goals in this game. Up against the Sheffield Wednesday side, which we know what's happening with them. It's just difficult, isn't it, at the end of the day? They've had some results here in the last couple against Swansea and Bristol City where they've just been put aside pretty much, and it's just, they just quite simply don't have the quality and the players off the bench to compete with teams like this. Bristol City were comfortable completely in that game, same with Swansea, and I feel like it could be more of the same with it being at Fratton Park, Portsmouth being at their home stadium. I'm going to have to go for a Portsmouth winning this game. I'm going to go for a Portsmouth. I actually think it's going to be... I can't do it. Portsmouth haven't scored enough. We're going to go 2-0. We're going to go 2-0 to Portsmouth. I think it'll be comfortable. And then Portsmouth will be able to get themselves on the score sheet and score a few goals. Now, on to the next match. We go across to the other team in Sheffield, where we've got Sheffield United versus Charlton. Of course, Sheffield United have been probably the main talking point this week, reappointing Chris Wilder just a few months after getting rid of him. absolutely wild. I think Ruben Stars had to go. I mean, if he's not starting Gustavo Hamer and not starting even Tyrese Campbell, it's a sackable offence, isn't it? Let's be real. His days were numbered. From the second he started doing that, you felt like it was going to be the end if they didn't get a result. And to get put aside the way they did by Ipswich, it was absolutely pathetic. It was embarrassing. And they needed a change. And Chris Wilder coming back, I mean, what on earth is going on? But I mean, he's a great manager for Sheffield United, and he has been, and he's got a great record there, and I'm sure he will continue that. I think Sheffield United's quality of squad isn't quite as high as what it was last season, but I still think it's a very high quality squad. Up against Charlton, who, I mean, they got a draw against Millwall, because Millwall scored late on. It's not been a bad return. It's not exactly been unbelievable in terms of them going forward. I think they've struggled creatively going forward. I think Charlie Kelman's really struggled since signing him. Only the 3 goals scored so far this season. I do worry a little bit about Charlton just for that creativity. And I think with this game being at Bramall Lane, I think it's, if you look at it from a Sheffield United perspective, this is probably one of the better fixtures you can get in terms of first game being at home against a team that's predicted to be down there. I do think Sheffield United will be able to get themselves a result, and I actually think it's going to be a comfortable result for Sheffield United. I am going to go for another 2-0 win for Sheffield United. As I say, I felt with it just being Chris Wilder there, I think it's going to have a big effect on them Sheffield United players and the Sheffield United fans as well. I think they'll take really well to that. So I do think they will be able to get themselves a result in that game. So I am going to go for a 2-0. And we actually have 2 fixtures that aren't on Saturday. We have a Monday night game, and we also have a Sunday game. Bristol City versus Oxford. I think Bristol City will be able to get the win in this game. They've been fantastic going forward. They've been scintillating going forward. You look at the likes of Mehmeti, Scott Twine and Emma Reese. That front three has been really good. The wing backs as well. Bristol City have been really impressive going forward. They put aside Sheffield Wednesday, which is, you've got to go ahead and do it. It's obviously, you expect them to go and do it, but it's one thing expecting it, for them to then actually go ahead and make that happen. They made that happen with complete ease in that match. And as I say, they've been really impressive. And they should have really got a result before that against Derby as well. I've been so impressed with Bristol City. Oxford getting a point against Leicester. Obviously, they're against 10 men. It's not a bad result. They definitely would have taken a point at the start of the game. Obviously, being against 10 men, it's difficult. Just the 2 points collected so far this season, but now at least 2 positive results as well, up against 2 teams that we expect to be up there come the end of the season. So that's definitely a positive for Oxford. Will Lancashire has been good since coming in. But I am going to go for a Bristol City win. I do think Bristol will be able to get themselves a result in that game. I am going to go for a 2-1 Bristol City. I think Bristol City go 2-0 up. Oxford will pull one back. But I think Bristol City will come out with the 3 points in that game. Right, now on to the final game of the weekend, where we're going to Watford versus, who even is it? I can't even remember. It is Watford versus Millwall on the final game. This is Millwall actually on right now at the time of recording this video. I'm literally got the game up next to me with them against Crystal Palace. Millwall, of course, battling back against Charlton, managing to get themselves a point against the 10 men of Charlton towards the end of the game. I mean, the injury list at Millwall looks very, very concerning, I'm not going to lie. And, I mean, Millwall haven't exactly hit the heights so far this season, I wouldn't say. Overall, they're sat currently in 13th in the league, just a 4 goals scored and 7 goals conceded. It's not really been too Millwall-esque in terms of how solid they were last season defensively. They haven't quite been as solid. I mean, they have now lost, of course, Tanganga as well, which is a big loss for that side, and just a 4 goals scored, so it hasn't exactly been anything to shout about so far for Millwall. I've been quite disappointed overall with their start. Up against the Watford side, which, I mean, Watford losing to Blackburn, 2-2 against Southampton. It's been a pretty average start to the season as well for Watford. I mean, they've got some very talented players in that side. Look at the likes of Iran Kunda in that Watford side as well, who's a very, very impressive player who's got a few free kicks and looked really impressive. I think Kipriano's been decent as well in that Watford side. But as I say, Millwall have got a lot of injuries, and I am quite concerned about that kind of injuries when I'm looking at the players that are injured. Quite a few, players that are first-team players for Millwall there. I don't think there's going to be a lot in this game. I'm actually going to go for a 0-0 to finish it off. I think it's going to be a boring finish to the weekend, and we'll just calculate the table and see how the table ends up at the end of the week, where we've got Middlesbrough still leading the way, Stoke in second, Bristol City, Leicester, Portsmouth, and then Coventry making up the top 6. Bottom 3, Sheffield United, Oxford, and Sheffield Wednesday. The same 3 as what it currently is now, just in a little bit of a different order, with Wrexham then in 21st. So let me know what you think of that in the comment section down below. I'd be very interested to get your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on your team in the comment section down below going into the new game as well. As I said, I'd be very interested to get your thoughts. If you enjoyed it, drop a like down below. Subscribe as well. It only takes 1 second. You wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button. If you watch this point, you may as well hit the subscribe button. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.